Update 2.2 might have just destroyed Geometry Dash, and the problem is a little bit more complex than you might think. So much has changed in such a short time that it's honestly hard to describe it all. Overnight, this face went from just another reaction image for me to steal to fire in the hole! A seizure went from something that only happened to old people, and Japanese children that one time, to an imminent threat. Multiplayer went from terrible levels made by 12-year-olds to reenactments of national tragedies that were also made by 12-year-olds. But let's not get ahead of ourselves. In order to explain why exactly I think Geometry Dash is in danger, there's a few things I need to explain first. Namely, what exactly is Geometry Dash? What is Update 2.2? And why did I make an entire video just to spite my friend, Fatimus Balamus, professional Geometry Dash player? Let's jump straight into this analysis with the base game. For those of you who are unaware, Geometry Dash is best described as a soundtrack with a game attached to it. You play as a square and pretty much have one ability, a jump. Truly, the 4 and older age rating is showing. That's not the whole story though, because if the game was this boring, it would just be called Taylor Swift: The Eras Tour. Instead, each level has a different array of traps that the player has to dodge while their character moves automatically. These traps include a spike, 2 spikes, 3 back-to-back ads that make me want to destroy whoever made this game because I refuse to buy the actual game out of pure spite, 4 spike. Don't get the wrong idea. Geometry Dash isn't exactly easy. As a matter of fact, it's actually pretty difficult and has a lot of genuinely interesting and cool mechanics that I just can't get into because I need that time for my routine real-life cutaway gag that I insist on doing in every video. And just like my subscribers can expect to see this image of me soy-facing every 10 seconds, there are certain things that you can predict from Geometry Dash. Each level is structured in a very meticulous way. Generally, the beginning is the easiest part, and the further in you go, the harder it becomes. Also, often new mechanics and gimmicks are introduced in small doses at the start of the level to get the player prepared for any tricks it pulls later on. Personally, I think the best example of the effort that went into the game design is seen by how the movement of the player tends to match up with the beats of the music. I would love to show you that, but I really like the song that's playing right now, so here's the best I could do. Patch 2.2. I think the best way to explain the impact of this update is to just tell you how I experienced it. I was sifting through the many messages I get from sexy single women in my area when I saw something that would change the course of my life. Fire in the hole! Immediately I went to check the patch notes of Update 2.2. What could it be, I wondered? What magical perfect change was made that allowed something as angelic as this to be a reality? Was it the new map button? The treasure menu redesign? The 86 new triggers? It was definitely that. The level editor in Geometry Dash had existed for a long while now, but hadn't really broken out into the mainstream. Sure, you can make really cool stuff with it, but when you needed to read a 201-page guide just to insert the Vine Boom sound effect, it really wasn't going to go anywhere. Interestingly, rather than make any of this easier to understand, Update 2.2 decided to expand the level editor even further by adding so many features the game would become unrecognizable. Between the addition of camera controls, post-processing effects, and hundreds of other small additions, the level editor went from a worse Mario Maker to a worse emulator. I mean, seriously. The other day I texted my friend, hop on Geometry Dash, let's play Five Nights at Freddy's. It's this sheer wave of creative freedom that has been unleashed that I believe will be the downfall of Geometry Dash. Even though each level is different, I believe that they can be grouped into 2 categories, both of which hurt the base game in one way or another. The first type of level is what I would like to call the effort post. This might sound surprising since most people don't exactly think of quality when 2.2 was mentioned, but there is a lot of merit to fan-made content. Effort posts range from remakes of official levels to entirely original projects. There are countless examples of levels of equal and arguably greater quality than the original game, with dynamic difficulty ranges and unique traits. In fact, the gameplay you're looking at right now is one of those fan-made levels, and you might not have even realized it. Now I could get into the trenches, dig through every level one by one just to show you the peak as examples, but to be honest with you, I don't really feel like it. You see, I wouldn't exactly call myself a Geometry Dasher. I'm more of an arithmetic runner. You know, the kind of person who plays the game casually for a month, then forgets about it until that funny green face pops into my head and makes me laugh. Even though this might sound like a negative when it comes to, you know, making a mini video essay about Geometry Dash, it does give me a unique point of insight. Ever since 2.2 has come out, I have never felt like playing the base game. As a matter of fact, I'd argue the sheer onslaught of fan-made levels and experiences has completely overshadowed the original experience to newcomers and maybe even veterans alike. Don't get me wrong, I still do like the base game, but no matter how good of a game you make, it can't compete with the best that comes out of the hundreds of thousands of children that have just pegged themselves as game developers. Take Mario Maker for an example. The reason why its success didn't impact the mainline Mario franchise is because the assets they used were all from older games. Mario Maker was locked to 2D at a time when the competition was literally called 3D World. No matter how cool the creations on Mario Maker were, they could never compete with Nintendo because they were working on an entirely different dimension. Even with recent games that stick closer to the old style, like Mario Wonder, have completely different assets, power-ups, and unique mechanics that can't be replicated. On the other hand, RobTop Games gave the fanbase the keys to the house and only made us promise to keep things PG-13. No one let them see what the fanbase did to Anne Frank. At this point, even if Geometry Dash did try to make another game, the level creator could just replicate it. I mentioned FNAF earlier offhand, but players could literally make their own models and assets to use in their games. In the time it took me to get the background footage for this video alone, I've seen way more furry art than in my entire career on DeviantArt. In a way, this update has completely undermined any future efforts of RobTop Games. Now they can't just slap a Sub-Zero logo onto an expansion and sell me the same thing twice, because they've created their own competition. All in all, this leaves me to question, is it even really their game at this point? Sure, RobTop might profit from this expansion, but if their own community is making the content for them, what does that mean for the original vision? The painstaking effort that went into crafting the base game and all the ideas of the creators that are being left behind. Sadly, I think that it will slowly wither away, being replaced by newer variants which would effectively kill Geometry Dash, the game, to make room for the community. I mean, we've seen it before. Soon enough, Geometry Dash could go from a fun little cube game to the next Roblox or Fortnite, nothing more than a hub for other games. All of this serious talk has made me a little sad, so let's end this by talking about something a bit more interesting. Lobotomies. Lobotomy levels are the community term for any level that makes the player just want to turn off their computer and think about what has happened to bring them to this point in their life. It is the absolute peak of 2000s humor, with a particular emphasis on loud equals funny and bright lights. As somewhat of a comedian myself, I can respect the form, although personally I prefer explosions equal funny. You were probably expecting me to hate on lobotomy posting, but honestly it's my favorite part of the game now. I'd say there are two types of lobotomy posts, nonsensical ones and reenactments of the most horrific events known to man. Let's be real, you know what I think about the nonsense posts for my editing in this video, so what about the later stages? Wait, 1 second. Yeah? Oh. So, I've just been reminded that I have a digital footprint. Time to make it a digital crater, baby! I don't actually condone the creation of these levels because they can be pretty insensitive for one, but for two, they just rely on shock humor, which I don't really respect as a medium. That being said, I do find it incredibly funny to play these kinds of levels and imagine the crazy amount of hours someone who is probably half my age spent trying to make the mustache move just right on their funny World War II reenactment. With that being said, I am very excited to see what else the community will make, and although I'm very skeptical about the future of Geometry Dash, I do hope that the advertisers won't pay too close attention to this update, or else I'll have nothing to rage at while playing Geometry Dash Lite. Now, if you wanted to get mad at something, how about you check out my review of Battle Cats? Quite possibly the best and most infuriating mobile game I've ever had the displeasure of loving. See you dudes in the next video.